It's Meet the Experts. Can't even get that out right. I'm Lawrence Presman. Marco D'Angelo joining us today, and an exciting day for me. Marco is the co-founder of WagerTalk.com, a dear friend of mine, a terrible poker player, a man who eats too many chicken wings, and a guy some people want to see have a cage fight with me. Marco, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Prez. What a great intro there, my friend.
Well, you know what, dude? You're a good dude.
But I eat too many chicken wings.
You eat too many donuts, too many chicken wings, and on and on and on, my brother. How you been during this time?
Going out of my mind like everybody else. I'm not a guy that likes to sit at home. You know, I'm at home basically most of the day, in front of a computer, looking at stats, handicapping games. So I like to go out in the evening and, hit the casinos, maybe play a little poker, watch games in a sports book. And this lockdown here in Vegas, use the phrase, I'm going a little stir crazy.
Yeah, all of us are. All of us. I mean, I'm on a self-imposed half quarantine. I quarantine myself at night and watch a whole lot of TV, and during the day, well, I go buy lunch, go to the gas station. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for logging in. Italian Guru, I couldn't agree with you more. It completely sucks. Hey, Wrath of Raider, I haven't seen you guys on. Thank you so much for tuning in to Meet the Experts. Monday's show, Carmine Bianco. Tuesday's show, Kelly and Minty. Yesterday was Gianni the Greek, and today the co-founder of WagerTalk.com, Marco D'Angelo. And Marco, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I want to hear some colorful stories. I want to learn a little bit about you. We're going to make fun of each other like we always do, right? So I don't know if you listened on Tuesday, but Kyle Anthony, the best UFC handicapper on the planet, wanted to see you and I in a cage match. I basically said this is how it would go down. I'd run around for about 15 seconds until you tired out. Then you would get so tired, you'd get hungry, you'd pull a chicken leg out of your pocket, sit in the middle of the ring, start eating. I'd armbar you, and the fight would be over. Thoughts?
I will just let you believe that, Prez. I want you to have the first hit. I want you to land the first punch and feel good, because I already feel bad for you. You went from Kelly and Minty to having to share a screen with me today. So I know how depressed you are already. So I'll let you have the first one.
So, brother, let's start right at the top. You've been doing this for about 35 years, give or take.
Try 40.
40 years. I want to know how you got into this industry. I asked Gianni the same thing. And, talk about, were you a customer at first? Did you get caught up in the Stu Feiners of this world? And then what led you to becoming a handicapper? Look, I get it. You were a lazy bum. You don't want to work. Sports handicapping was a way out, but put that aside.
Well, Prez, for those that don't know, and you hear me talk about steaks and meats and everything all the time. Growing up, my dad owned the actual meat packing plant. We processed the cattle, and more graphic terms, we were a slaughterhouse, and prepared the meats and everything. And so by craft, that was the first trade that I knew. I was a meat cutter. So I worked at a young age, at my dad's place. So I always had money in my pocket. And being in an Italian family, we gambled. Okay, whether it was holidays, whatever. There was always a poker game in the basement of our house every holiday. My uncles and so forth, and my dad and everything. So betting was all around. I bet at a very young age. In fact, when I was in high school, I used to take a few bets from my friends. And what I did with that money is all the money I took from bets from my friends at school, that is what bankrolled me making a bet. And my dad let me put a bet in each week. And back then, all I concentrated on, now we're talking, I'm a teenager, we were betting the NFL. And I loved the NFL 7-point teasers. And, back then you got 7-point teasers at a realistic price. And I would bet one teaser a week. And, that's how I started betting. But my first true love and serious betting and how it led me to get into the business was baseball, Prez. I love baseball. And I was betting baseball. I was working at the time. I was 17 years old. And I was still living at home. I built up a bankroll betting $50 a game most of the time. Sometimes I would step it up to 100, but I was very conservative. Again, we're talking about 79, early 80. And I built up a bankroll. I had a briefcase under my bed at home. and at one point, I maxed out at $5,000 betting on my own. And then I came across an ad. And it was in one of those schedule books that you see laying around the sports books in Vegas. Back then, they used to put them everywhere. Now you have to buy them. But there was an ad in that schedule book. And it was the Nevada sports schedule. And I saw this ad. I'm not going to call out the person that I saw the ad of, but you can use your imagination. And this guy sitting with sunglasses, and no, not Dave Koken, because immediately everybody thinks sunglasses and Dave Koken. But this guy standing in front of a sports car in front of a Las Vegas casino. And I'm reading his ad, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, here's this 17-year-old kid from just outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What do I know? And I built this bankroll up, and I got the vision, Prez, that look at this guy. He's got contacts. He's, right there at the pulse, the epicenter of gambling in Nevada. He's got to, if I can make this much money with my picks, just think how much money I can make with his. And that's when I bought my first sport.
Well.
Oh, no, it's not go well at all. So, and here's where I learned my first lesson, and everybody's got to learn lessons. Money management, okay? I built up a $5,000 bankroll betting $50 and $100 a game. So do I start betting this guy $50 and $100 a game? No, hell no.
500.
Right? Because I was betting $400 a game is the number I landed on. And I bought a month of service, had the worst month of my entire life betting. Now, granted, it wasn't a long career so far, but it was my worst month ever. I was still betting my games for the $50 and betting this guy's games for $400. And my bankroll just got totally annihilated. I was sick about it. And go back to the first statement where I said my dad owned a slaughterhouse. Okay. If you're a meat cutter, the last thing you want to have is being upset and worried about paying the bookie and your hands are shaking. Because if you're cutting meat and the bandsaw and cutting those New York strips, your hands are shaking. You might take a finger with you, And I'm like, Jesus, what the hell's going on here? And fast forward to my month being over, 31st day I call in for my picks. Guy answers the phone, XYZ Sports. I'm not going to call them out. And I give them my, account number and that to get today's plays. And they say, oh, your subscription ended yesterday. And I said, yeah. He goes, do you want to renew? And I said, why would I renew? You buried me. And then I learned my next lesson in the sports service industry. He said, well, you should have bought the Inner Circle games. And I go, what are the Inner Circle games? Well, that's the premium program. And I'm like, well, what was I getting? I paid you $395 for a month of service. Oh, those were just the regular plays. I said, the regular plays that just totally annihilated my bankroll? Well, yeah, we did really well on the Inner Circle games. Oh, well, why don't you give me some of those? Give me a week of those to get started and get some money back. Oh, no, I can't do that. Well, are you going to give me some of the regular plays? Well, no, I can't do that either. And then I asked to talk to the head handicapper, the owner of the company, and the sales rep laughing on the phone. Oh, no, he's too busy. He can't talk to you. And I says, okay, the guy I paid the money to that lost all my money and wasn't even giving me his best plays, and I'm buried and you want more money and I can't talk to that person. So long story short, I said, you know what? Shove your picks where the sun don't shine. I walked away as mad as I could possibly be, but it was a good lesson because
Yep.
it set the model for me on what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I knew at
Yep.
that point that I was a very capable handicapper. I had, a unique talent in being able to break things down and bet and make a profit. I just didn't have that confidence factor. We go through it to this day.
Yeah.
If you're in a losing streak, you start second guessing some of the things that you do. But you have to understand the test of time and know that what you do long run is always going to come out. And I sat there and I said, you know what? I am going to do this. I am better than the person that I just bought. I also know that I am not going to treat customers that way. And that's when I started my phone service. Back in the day, my phone service was Sports Unlimited, Marco D'Angelo Sports Unlimited. And I began that service in 1980. And I vowed from that day I would talk to my customers. I vowed that there would only be one set of games. There's no programs. There's one price. If it's too much for you to buy, buddy up with somebody. Okay. I'm not going to charge you based on what you bet, and I hate if somebody ever calls you soliciting you and the first question out of their mouth is, what do you bet per game?
Yeah, hang the phone up.
Hang the phone up immediately.
Yeah. And if the next question is, you're right now, and we're getting so many calls from the Canadian Revenue Agency telling us that we're going to be arrested unless we provide our social security number. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. Marco, we'll get back to your story in a second. I just want to pretty much summarize the last 4 days for everybody. Number one, we have learned that every handicapper we've had on so far, from Carmine to Gianni to Marco, have all bought plays in the past, and we're all customers before handicappers. The second thing we've learned to date is that not one single guest can answer a question within 2 minutes. My God, everyone is so loquacious. Hey, Vivian. Nice of you to log on. Hey, Italian guy, Andrew Barbasol, Jesus, the Andrew Thrasher. A quick update to everybody. Vivian and I played Scrabble last night. I was up with one move to go, and she had a V for Vivian, and she placed it at the end of a T and an A. Marco, is TAV a word?
Not that I know of, sir.
Yeah, so I challenged it, and as it turns out, it's a Hebrew letter, which should not count as a word, and she won by 1 point. I look at it this way, Marco. I played a 9-inning baseball game against Vivian. I won 8 innings. She won 1 inning. I win. Do you not see it that way?
No, Prez. So in other words, I haven't, talked to you in a few weeks on a professional level here in handicapping and so forth. And the first thing you greet me with is another one of your bad beat stories.
Well, that's how it rolls, dude. That's how I roll. Teddy Covers joining us. Hey, Broke Mechanic. Nice to see you. Teddy Covers with us. He's on next week, so make sure to watch that, guys. Thank you so much for logging on to Meet the Experts. Marco, so you started Sports Unlimited. You were doing 900 numbers and pretty much milking everybody dry.
The series of 900 numbers in the day, Prez, that was a absolute, it was incredible. It was the easiest way to get information out to people. People didn't have to call you and give them, give your credit card and information like that. You could be anonymous and buy picks, and a lot of people like that. And it was a heyday. It really was, a good time for the sports service industry. We provided the picks, and it gave us a platform which really opened up other things that from that later on made the experience better, because doing these phone recordings and having mass people come in and be able to get, the plays in a timely manner and not just say the play. I mean, back in the day, we had what was called a late telephone service. We released basically an hour before games kicked off. And I would have a staff of people answering phones, and we had several hundred clients, and they're all calling in a 1 hour time frame. You're answering the phone and you're saying 5-star Pittsburgh Steelers -3, 4-star blah blah blah, and you couldn't give any analysis with the game because you just didn't have the time. But when we got to the 900 numbers and we were doing a recording, you could actually give an analysis with the play for everybody to hear. And that's when I started doing analysis, because after the 900 numbers crashed, because complete and utter morons in what they did with the printing on a bill. That's a whole nother story of how the 900 numbers died. But it opened up where now you had PIN systems and phone, you could set up a system and give a client a PIN number. He could call in and here you do one recording. And it actually made the industry better, because now you were able to know why I liked a particular play. So it started the education process. Think about it, Prez. When I got in the business, there was no internet. Okay. All of the stats, you think about how easy it is.
There was barely an abacus when you got into this industry.
I called them pitching cards. I mean, again, baseball was, my first love. And I hand tracked every start by every major league pitcher. I logged down the innings, hits, runs allowed, earned runs, strikeouts, walks, did all of that by hand for years and years. When I finally sold my house in Pennsylvania, I was carrying cases of index cards that had all this information on for pitchers for over the years. It was and now you can just do a couple clicks on the internet and get 100 times more information.
Marco, we got to keep this show moving. Okay. I just want to shout out to Johnny Detroit. He is mocking my shirt, thinks it's too small. I don't know, Johnny. I think I look pretty good. There's the guns. Little bit of torso for you. The shirt fits nicely. It makes me feel muscular, and that's a good feeling. Marco, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I've been in this industry since 1999. In 1998, I actually went into the 900 industry myself. I went into the phone sex industry. Do you know that?
I didn't know that you did that, but the company that I had my 900 numbers with actually was located here in Vegas. Yeah. And that's another thing that ruined them, that killed their business, because they were half sports service and half of the sex lines. And the sex lines are what buried them when the chargebacks started to come.
Yeah, so I came up with an incredible idea. At the time, it was 1998. Nobody wanted to put their credit card. Nobody wanted to put their credit card online. I approached 5 of the biggest porn sites in the world, and I got them to give me username and passwords. And if people called my 900 number, they would be patched through to a girl, have their phone sex, and then they would be given a password and username that they can then log on to porn sites with for a day or a week, depending on how much they paid. Yeah, it was a mitigating disaster, dude. The idea was so good that Playboy and Penthouse ripped it off. I was out of business and lost all my money within 10 months, and that led me into this industry. And now we are partners in WagerTalk.com. Why, Marco, you were handicapping for a website prior to joining WagerTalk.com. We will not give the name out at all, but it is something that is pre the game. What made you leave pre the game and join me to start WagerTalk.com?
Well, quite honestly, very
Just
different.
say me.
Yeah, that was it. It was you. A lot of different things in disagreements in views of what I thought the industry was and should be.
Well said, Twatty.
And the situation at a dinner, and Johnny Detroit was at that particular dinner, okay, in Vegas. And things got a little heated. And someone actually told me, if you think you can do things better, you think it's that easy to run a website, why don't you go start your own? Well, you know what? Be careful what you wish for. That was in February. I waited
till July.
I waited till the 1st of July because I needed a spot where there was a clean break. And that clean break would have been the baseball all-star break. NBA would have just finished. College basketball had finished, and we had not started taking sign-ups for football yet. So it was a great time to do the walkaway, and that's when I did it. And
we haven't looked back since, dude. I'm gonna jump in from time to time because you bore the shit out of me. We haven't looked back, and you know what, Marco? When you and I met for the first time to really figure out how to do WagerTalk, the real priority was customer-centric website. We literally have a customer service team. We also don't make outbound phone calls. We don't bother people. And that's really been, that's what you and I spoke about right at the beginning. Make this a customer-centric website. Keep the prices down for what we do, and find the best handicappers that we can find. And we started, guys, I'm not even kidding you. Marco and I started WagerTalk with, correct me if I'm wrong here, Marco, $30,000 and a dream.
Well, there was more money invested with other investors and stuff to get it going because we spent a lot of money. But what we did do, which doesn't tell the whole story, Prez, because 30's nothing. Everything that was coming back through at the beginning was going right back out.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you know what? It's still, it's funny you say that, Marco, because it's still exactly the same way. I mean, we are 6 years in, and we are spending everything we make to grow. Shank Golfer, thanks for the nice words on the website. Just you wait 6 weeks or so, 6 to 8, 10 weeks away from launching the new platform. Lots of stuff coming. We're going nowhere.
Special shout out to Shank because didn't want to interrupt you there, but I wanted to give him a shout out. That's a guy that has been around and has followed me back to those previous days. And a lot of guys came over and followed us to WagerTalk and really appreciate those people because, Prez, that first year, basically that was our advertising base was,
your customers, dude. And that's ultimately why we did it. I mean, I approached you. I talked you into doing this because I knew you had a big customer base. And really, I mean, the first year, we go through the books every now and then to take a look at the revenue stream. And, we started in July. August, we did $800 in sales. September, I think we did $8,000 in sales. But in all seriousness, Marco, it wasn't until a year later where we talked Johnny Detroit into joining us. That's really was the catalyst to our growth. And now we're top 5, maybe top 3 handicapping business in the world. We will be top 1 within 2 years. We have probably the greatest team ever assembled between you, myself, Gianni, Kelly, Johnny, Rick Alec, who joined us from the Gold Sheet on a purchase. It's actually an unbelievable story of what we have achieved. And look at all the content we're putting out. Our YouTube channel, by far the largest in the world. But I don't want this to be about WagerTalk. So let me ask you a question, Marco. You are what is called a situational handicapper. Do you want to explain that to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own way of handicapping, Prez. And it is a situation where, use the phrase, there's, many different ways to skin a cat, which is one of the most stupid phrases ever made, because who actually skins a cat? But this is a situation where you have guys like Gianni, who gets information from some of the best sources. He has guys that he follows that make money, move money. He gets information that way. That is a winning way. There are guys that are numbers guys that, they crunch the stats and everything else, and they make their money that way. For me, and then there's always the big debate between situational handicapping and a lot of numbers guys. And there's some numbers guys that, out there that are, let's be honest, they're total snobs and assholes. They think that numbers are the only thing and it's the end all to be all. Yes, you got to use numbers. You have to use stats, but it is not 100% perfect. And the reason for that is because the people playing these games, Prez, are not machines. Okay. The numbers guys, sabermetrics guys and everything, they're getting all these polished numbers and they're using them. Well, you know what? You know who else is using those numbers, Prez? The books. The books have that same information as well. And they're setting those numbers based on the season-long numbers of the two teams, and they're putting up the spreads, and you're betting against them. The house always has that 10% edge in the juice. Why I think situational handicapping gives me an edge that the numbers guys don't have is because, Prez, everybody doesn't play at the same level for every game of, if it's a baseball season, 162 game season, if it's basketball and you're talking about an 82 game season, whatever, they don't bring it every night. You need to find those spots where there's a reason for that team to play better than their season average or worse than their season average. And that's what situational handicapping gets me. It lets me find those spots where a team is coming off a big game, that they're going to have a flat spot or a look-ahead spot for a big revenge game and different things. And that's why I feel situational handicapping is something that's never baked into the line. If you're talking about 3 games in 4 nights, Vegas takes that into consideration. If a team's playing back-to-back nights in the NBA, generally the team that's rested is going to pay a point to a point and a half in the point spread. They'll make adjustments there, but they don't make the adjustments because, this team just played their division rival and now they're playing a team with a losing record and they're not going to be as pumped up for that game. They don't do those things. They can't try to do that because they're basically not allowed to put emotion into what they're doing. They have a business, and the business has become, and a lot of people use this phrase, the sports booking industry has become a bunch of bean counters where they've gone corporate. And so they have to answer to why their numbers are what they are and their profit and loss margins. They can't do that. There's still some old school bookmakers here in Vegas, but it's becoming a dying breed.
Marco,
that's why I think situation is good.
Marco, it's fascinating because, Carm and I do a lot of NHL. We're big time NHL handicappers, and we talk a lot every day about this. And I think there's no sport better suited for situational handicapping than hockey. Regardless of, the violence inside of NFL and the length of the season with baseball and NBA, etc. Hockey is such an intense sport. It is so violent and so fast. It requires an unbelievable amount of torque and emotion. I wonder why you don't take NHL more seriously, because it is literally the best sport for situational handicapping.
I will admit, Prez, that looking back now over the years, probably not getting involved in hockey was something that was a mistake on my part. But I can tell you, back in the day, Prez, hockey was not as popular betting. Okay. Yeah. It's grown in the last several years. And part of that really has to do with the Vegas Golden Knights, because Vegas is the epicenter. Everybody bets in Vegas. We all know the story from the first year and how they made the run to the Stanley Cup Finals. And it just galvanized this town, and it became an instant sports town with hockey. And so much so, my wife, Lori, doesn't like sports. And I know that's hard to believe, this is what I do for a living, but she doesn't care for sports. But when it comes to hockey, I took her to her first hockey game, Prez. And that first season, her first game, how lucky was her, other than the fact of going with me, to get an overtime game,
a
shootout, and a win.
That balanced the fact that she went with you.
Absolutely. But she was hooked on hockey at that point, so much so that we ended up having to buy season tickets the following year. And it's something that, coming from Pittsburgh, for me to sit here and admit that I really wasn't an avid hockey fan when I had one of the best franchises in all of hockey for a small market.
One of the luckiest franchises, yes.
Well,
totally fixed that they get Sidney Crosby. But anyway, Marco, we got it. We got to keep the show moving. I don't want to listen to your crap about the Pittsburgh Penguins. From Mario Lemieux to Jaromir Jagr to Gino to Crosby. I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised Connor McDavid isn't on that team. EAB927 comments. Prez, I always thought you were annoying and a wimp. I'm not the best Scrabble player, but I'm positive wimp does not have an H in it. But I found out you're a Pink Floyd fanatic yesterday like me, and now you're a good lad. Well, you know what, EAB? I am annoying. I am definitely not a wimp. I'm a black belt. I was a Canadian judo champ, and I got guns. But nothing gets in the way with my love of Pink Floyd. And I got to tell you, Marco, yesterday we were talking about Pink Floyd, and Minty Betts, I don't know, Minty, if you're on with us now. Minty had never heard any songs, so Vivian put together, 3 or 4 songs in an email, explained why. She picked Wish You Were Here, Time, and I think Comfortably Numb, or another Greatest Gig in the Sky. Minty then asked Vivian to listen to 3 country music songs that she really likes. So Vivian and I last night put on some of these country music songs. One was, I don't know, Florida Georgia Line or something called Talk. It's so bad, Marco. It's unlistenable. It is, Minty, what are you doing listening to such garbage? Oh my God. Okay, full disclosure, we did not get past the first song. We were like, no, absolutely not. Country music today is so bad, Marco. There's nothing behind it. It all sounds the same. I mean, from Luke Bryant to Brian Luke, it all sounds exactly the same to me. There's no depth. The lyrics are a joke. Me and my ma, we were sitting on the couch. Doody-dee-doody-doody-doody-doody-doo. I mean, what? Nothing. Name that song. I actually sang that song in a rhythm. Do you know the melody of that song?
No, I don't know what you're trying to say. Prez, I will tell you this. My wife does like country music, and country music today versus old country
Johnny
music
Cash is amazing, dude.
Well, some of the classic stuff, but most of the country music in the old days was a guy in a bar, his wife left him, took his dog, and now he's drinking his sorrows away. That was the basis for every country song, basically 20 years ago. Okay, so be thankful that you have the country you have today. But everybody has different music taste. I know. Listen, you got some off the wall stuff that you like. That's not, mainstream. But
I like mainstream.
What was your first concert? Do you remember your very first concert?
My first concert was Paul Simon, Graceland. My parents took me to it. It was not that enjoyable. Yours?
Bob Seger, Against the Wind tour. That was my first. And then I
love Bob Seger, dude.
Oh, I love
Bob Seger is amazing.
granted, I was dating, I was young. First concert was for me, was Bob Seger. The second concert I ever saw, this was Marco trying to get lucky. I, took one for the team to go to, but took my girlfriend, who then later on became, my first wife, Madonna, the Like a Virgin tour. So I went from Bob Seger to Madonna.
Well, I mean, listen, I did it all, dude.
Opposite end of the spectrum.
Marco, I've seen 64 Grateful Dead shows. I've seen Neil Young 12 times. I've seen the Allman Brothers 6 times. 64 Grateful Dead shows. I've seen Pink Floyd 4 times. The greatest concert I've ever seen in my life, by far, bar none, was Prince's Purple Rain tour. It was unbelievable. Let's move on. Oh, by the way, whoever wrote Cream, Cream's outstanding. Ginger Baker, what an incredible drummer. And you guys should check out his documentary on Netflix. It's really good as well.
Prez, have you seen Pearl Jam live?
Marco, I saw Pearl Jam open up with Soundgarden. They opened up for Neil Young before they broke. Neil Young was touring with Crazy Horse, and it was the worst thing I ever heard in my life. Now, though, I am a big Pearl Jam fan, and shout out to Vivian. That's used to be her favorite band, but now she is she's converted and understands the depth and stunning melodies, brilliant lyrics of Pink Floyd. Marco, you made a $40,000 mistake that turned into $250,000. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, well, everybody knows that I own racehorses. I've been in the horse racing business since 1986. I got started. But a few years back, I had a really good mare, and she made me some nice money. And then her racing days were done. Her name was Winning Skylight, and we bred her. And I had her yearling in the Kentucky Lexington sale. And the day before the sale at Lexington, a horse raced, and the horse's name was Real Desire, and was top, I don't know if he was a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old that year, but he was the top of his age group that year. And he set the track record at Lexington the day before my horse sold. My horse was bred 3/4 the same way as Real Desire. So after that record performance, I was talking with my trainer and that, and he said, are you going to protect the horse at all? And I said, yeah. I said, I have a number in mind, what I'm going to protect him to. And he asked me, well, what is it? I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I said, I'll handle the bidding. I don't want to tell anybody where I'm protecting the horse to, because a lot of time you never know who tells who what. Somebody always has a friend, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't even tell my trainer, who is still with me to this day, in the business. But I set 40,000 in my mind, Prez. We get to the day of the sale. They bring my horse into the ring, and the auctioneer talks the horse up in the pedigree, and then mentions this horse is 3/4, brother, blah, 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 bred the same way. And the bidding starts real good. And the number I put in my head on the horse was 40,000. I was going to protect him too. And horse went right through the 20s into the 30s, and then it started to slow down. It was 30. I bid 32, 34, 30, back and forth. Well, I was the even, and the other guy that was still bidding on the horse was the odd. The horse got to 37,000 live bid. I had an actual bid, and the auctioneer went to 40 from 37. And I went ahead and hit it for 37, or hit it for 40, and then another bid never came.
So basically your 6-minute story is I bid on a horse for 40 and it made me 270
My own horse.
grand.
My own horse I bid for back for 40. No, he was an absolute rat. So I had to pay for the shipping down to the sale. I had to pay for the commission of selling the horse, because they get it, 10% of what the horse sells for. So it cost me $4,000 to sell them. Then I had to ship them back, and then I raced them. 2 years later, I was lucky if the horse made $4,000. He was a total rat. His name in the barn, his nickname, we always give horses nicknames that you call them by. His was Jackass. Okay. Total bust. And I finally sold him as a 4-year-old at the Delaware sale. I went over with my wife, make the story short. I told her, we're not buying any horses at this sale. I am just selling this one. She says, why are we going? I said, this horse has been such a nightmare. I want final closure. I want to wave goodbye to him as he's walking out of the ring. And while I'm waiting for him to sell, I'm sitting there on, in the bleachers looking at the sale catalog, and I see a horse that was out of a horse that I used to watch race at the Meadows. That's my home track in Pennsylvania. And this horse, she was an absolute gorilla, and my trainer trained her. Now, the owners of that horse never come to the racetrack. So I had more win photos with that horse than the people that actually owned the horse. I told my wife, I'm going to go look at this horse. I just want to see if it looks anything like, his mom. And I come back, and I got this look on my face, and I told Kathy at the time, I said, this horse is going to bring nothing. She said, you said we weren't buying anything. I said, the horse is underweight. He's ribby. He's on the small side, or I should say she.
Okay, everybody listening, Marco is not the world's best storyteller. Long story short, he bought the horse. It made him $270,000. If he didn't make the $40,000 mistake to begin with, it wouldn't have led him to buy the horse for $270,000. Thank you, Marco. You are finally done that story. Oh my God. Philly Joe, dude, Chris Cornell's voice is ridiculous, but and I know you love Allman Brothers, a better voice than Chris Cornell, and a band that has one song in particular that is Allman Brother-esque, but better than anything they ever wrote, Can't You See by the Marshall Tucker Band. Check that out. It's unbelievable.
That is a great song. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, Can't You See? Look, I'm happy to sing Vogue. Marco, Vogue with me. Vogue. Bet you wanna do, ba doo doo. I don't even know the words, dude.
No. That's just a big no.
But
hey, Prez, do you know what today would have been?
Yeah, today would have been the start of March Madness. Marco, tell us about it.
Well, if you want to feel a little bit better about your current situation, and obviously this is something that, is worldwide as far as, or across the United States, shutdowns everywhere. If you want to feel sorry for Vegas today, I'm going to go with no. I don't want to feel sorry for Vegas. I got enough feeling sorry for my damn self. Well, this is what Vegas is missing out on. This is bigger than the Super Bowl. March Madness, the first 4 days of the tournament, where today we already would be into the first set of games. They start at noon. People come from everywhere for this. This is the annual guys trip to Vegas. Everybody plans their vacation. It's a guys trip, nothing but drinking and watching sports. Last year, the month of March, Prez, $600 million were wagered on sports in the month of March. $600 million. Think about that for a second. Their net profit last March was $32.5 million. And obviously, the biggest windfall of that was March Madness during the tournament. That's the big, draw for March. Think about the money. It's easy. We talk about, all the money that the sports books make and the casinos make over the years, but that's a big nut to make up that they lost out on. And obviously it affects everybody down the line, because with no casinos, everybody that works there, you have no idea how much that is to the economy of Las Vegas when a casino shuts down, how many people are affected by that.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it obviously sucks, man. I mean, we're all sitting here like it really hits home when March Madness was about to start today, and we're talking about frickin' music. You guys have to listen to me sing Vogue, and I don't even know the damn words. Marco, your guilty pleasure is chicken wings. Looking at you, I'm going to guess that you eat one a week.
Yeah. Actually, I think chicken wings should be their own food group. That's how much I like chicken wings. Yes, that's my comfort food. And I know you make fun of me with donuts and sweet jokes and everything, but if you gave me the choice between a plate of chicken wings and a plate of cake or donuts, cookies, whatever, I'm going to the chicken wings first.
Okay. Well, I think we have the best chicken wings in the world in Toronto. It's called St. Louis. I've never had better. For some strange reason, I'm permanently visiting you in Vegas, but you won't come visit me. So you're not going to have one of those chicken wings, Marco.
I would bet that I have to ask Carm about that because
Carm just texted me literally as you're talking saying cannolis, damn it, cannolis.
Yeah, cannolis are good. No question about that. Carm's a big Buffalo fan for whatever reason. And I would think that he's had some really good buffalo wings in Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't think so at all, dude. He's Italian. If he had buffalo wings, they'd be wrapped in cheese and soaked in marinara sauce.
That would be a disservice to the chicken wing for sure.
Marco, lots of stuff still coming at WagerTalk in the next little while. You and I are working round the clock right now. Johnny is working. We had meetings earlier today. We've got a bunch of things happening, everybody. We're looking to add some handicappers at both Sports Memo and WagerTalk. Johnny has been sifting through about 300 resumes. We have a new website on its way. It's already been designed, but there's a lot of work to do before we put it up. We have a line service coming for everybody in the next little while. We also are relooking at our pricing structure for this coming year. And hell, we're any successful handicapping business out there struggling in these times, email me what you want. Maybe we'll buy them. What's going on with you, brother? I mean, you got to be excited about our future.
Oh, I mean, what we were doing, and this past Monday, which would have been, a landmark for WagerTalk. Thanks to Kelly, we got invited to do our Bet On It show live at Caesar's Palace. That was something that we were all looking forward to. Johnny was flying in specifically for the taping of the show. It was going to be live in the Caesar's Palace Sportsbook. And to think, Prez, and you said you've been in it since 98, 99, the business, and I go back to 1980. Did you ever envision in your wildest dreams the partnership between sports books and pick sites, being able working together? We've had so many. Marco,
I got to interrupt you because it's a topic I actually was meaning to talk about. Yesterday with Gianni, we spoke about the scams, the mathematical scams that people were pulling with the 900 numbers back in the 80s and 90s. And, I was thinking last night, when you say, did you ever think about the relationship between sports books and sports content providers, sports betting content providers? Funnily enough, that relationship is evolving, and now it's going to be more of a legitimate relationship. But back about 15 years ago, about 90% of all sports betting content sites, including handicapping businesses, were literally just fronts for offshore bookmakers. They were set up by offshore bookmakers. They were ran by offshore bookmakers. The whole thing was just one big front. That has gone away since the mid-2000s. And I don't think it's going to come back. I don't think we're going to see that type of relationship. But it is exciting because there's a lot of advertising revenue available to us in the future. And everybody who logs on to WagerTalk Sports Memo, the Goal Sheet, you'll see we do almost no advertising. So that revenue we haven't even gone after yet, and it's still coming our way. So yeah, man, I mean, what you're saying is right. And it's just so exciting. Minty Betts, welcome. Did you listen to the Floyd songs Vivian sent you? Marco, how would you define yourself as a handicapper? I mean, I watch you all the time. You're pretty much a 3 play a day kind of guy, regardless of sport. Gianni could put out 20 plays in one day. You're pretty consistent between 1 and 3. And also, what is the best sport, your best sport?
Well, Prez, to go with the number of plays, I've always been a lower volume, and that comes from something that I picked up from my dad at a very early age when we used to go to the racetrack, and that's how I fell in love with horses. But, you go to a racetrack, they have, maybe 10, 12 races, and my dad would skip a race. And I said, Dad, why are we not betting this race? And he said, because I don't have an edge. And he says, you can beat a race, but you can't beat the races. And that's always stuck with me. And, it was, again, we all learn our different things that we take with us, money management and so forth. And it made so much sense. There might be 12 races on the card that day, but if you only have an edge in, 4 or 5 of those races where you feel you have a solid edge, that's all you bet. And that's what I've carried over into my sports. And I'm not condemning or saying people that do, a ton of plays is the wrong. Everybody has their own comfort zone, and that's mine. And it's been very successful for me, and it's enabled me not to go, bankrupt.
Yep.
Everybody's at some point has a story where they got knocked out of the game, because of mistakes or betting over their means, whatever. If you limit the number of bets you make and you use percentage of bankroll, you're never going to be out of the game. And that's something that I learned, and that's where that philosophy has come from. And maybe it's more conservative, and to use the phrase from Rounders, you can't lose what you don't put in the middle. Well, on the same token, you can't win what you don't put in the middle too. So you have to find that happy medium that you're good with, and everybody has their own style, and that's mine.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching Meet the Experts. We do have a promo up for everybody. It's been scrolling at the bottom of the screen the entire show. Marco D'Angelo full year for $1,188. That's $99 a month. And we'll actually, Marco didn't send this to me, but we'll lock that in forever. So if you want to get 10 years of Marco, one after another, we will never raise that price for you. And it starts when the first major sporting event begins. Marco, we're going to start slowly wrapping the show up. I just want to, Minty did not hear what I said earlier. Minty, that song Talk by Florida Satellite, Georgia Streaming, blah, 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 blah. Line. It was god awful. I do not think you're going to like Pink Floyd because basically what you sent me was vanilla, and what I sent you was peanut butter, chocolate, pralines, mint chips, with a little bit of Skor bar and Snickers put in it. You sent pretty much crap, and I sent you the greatest thing in the world. Awful, awful, awful. Guys, in case you didn't hear, Minty sent the song Talk. Marco, you're binge watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes, I am. I'm watching that. Before we go to that, Prez, just real quick, the first sport that I expect to be back is going to be baseball.
I agree.
And as we talked about, baseball has been my first love when I got into the business. And obviously, it's the one thing that has been most notable for me as far as the history books in this industry. This will be the 10-year anniversary of that magical season that I had in 2010 when I won 25 consecutive games, and I never laid more than 120 on a single play. They were all underdogs or minus 120, and it's something I'm very proud of. It's something that might never be a record that might never be broken. Will I ever do that again? Probably not, but we look to have some really good runs, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it with baseball when the season starts. So if baseball is the first sport back, that's when your year would start, and that would be a good way to get hit the ground running, is going with baseball with me if you pick up that special.
Guys, Marco hitting 25 games in a row is 1 out of 41.5 million. That's the odds. 1 out of 40.
Where did you get that stat?
I got that stat. Look, I don't want to give out any names. At the time you did that, you were working for this company that would be pre the game, and there was this guy that rhymed with smell, and he tweeted it out, but no names. Marco, we got to ask you about the heart attack story. Carmine, please stop. Dude, Friday night, Carmine was at my house. We were playing poker. I had like 12 guys over. Everybody wanted to listen to like Supertramp, The Doors. Carmine kept grabbing my phone and playing Bocelli and Cannelloni, Spaghettini, all of these freaking things, a lasagna. I mean, nobody wants to listen to 7 versions of Nostradamus or whatever the hell that song is called. Tell us about your heart attack story.
Well, the heart attack story that they're referencing was back in 2009. I had been out here a year, and I was going to propose to Lori the next day. It was my birthday, and I had a dinner planned with her and her daughter, and I was going to propose at dinner. And the day before, I was at that office that we won't talk about, which is probably one of the reasons why I almost had a heart attack working there. My left arm went totally numb at the office. And we're talking, I used to go into the office at 6 in the morning so that I would be there, 9 o'clock East Coast time. And I called Lori up and I said, something's not right. My arm's numb. It's been this way for like 30 minutes. Getting a little freaked out. I said, I got to go to the hospital. And she says, I'll come get you. And I said, no, I can make it. I can drive, because the hospital was halfway between the two of us. And history of my family, my mother lost 3 brothers to heart attacks before the age of 56. So obviously that was a concern, and my dad had a stroke, so I wasn't fooling around with it. And when I got to the hospital, they didn't know what was going on, running all kinds of tests. All my numbers were off the charts and everything. And they decided that they were going to have to keep me in the hospital. So now I'm freaking out even more because, I had this big night planned the next day and everything. And I thought, what? I thought I was, maybe going to be cashing my last ticket right there. And so I told Lori to go to the car. And I told her, in the bottom of the glove, the console, I had hidden where I had the ring. And I told her, there's a bag. Bring it into the emergency room, but don't open it. I pulled it out in the emergency room and proposed in the emergency room. And let me tell you guys, it's hard for somebody to tell you no when you're laying flat on your back in the emergency room with wires all over you and everything. So, that was a, nice scene and everything. That was on Wednesday. Fast forward to Friday. The true degenerate that I am, still in the hospital. I'm in ICU. They got me all wired up, monitoring my heart and everything. And I had a horse racing that day back in Pennsylvania. And I'm in the hospital. I can't get money down on this. And the situation being, Johnny just texted me to tell this story as we're speaking right now.
Does he know that you're the worst storyteller ever?
No.
Well, he's starting to learn.
Yeah, he's learning. But I got all these wires hooked up. I asked Lori to bring my computer in so I could watch the race. But I got to get money down on the horse because the horse we were racing that day had a lung infection a couple starts back. And that's why the horse was racing poorly. And we treated it, cleared it up. And
yeah, well said, Black. Get to the point, Marco.
I'm sitting there. The horse is racing. Johnny gets the money down for me. I got $500 to win on this horse. And she's going off at 9-1. We're turning for home. She's on top by 3-4 lengths, but she hadn't raced in a month. So her stride starts shortening a little bit, closer to the wire, and I'm like screaming at the laptop to hold on, to hold on. She gets nipped right at the wire, finishes second. We did bet win in place, so we got our money back, but we missed a big score. I set all of the alarms off on the wires that they had me wired up, the EK, the heart monitor and everything. The nurse comes running back thinking I'm having a heart attack because of my vitals. She walks in and she goes, "What's going on? You okay?" And I'm saying, "No, I'm fine." She says, "Your number's like you're having a heart attack." And I go, "No." And I point to the computer in the horse race. I said, "I had a horse racing." She just shook her head, said, "Now I have officially seen everything," reset the monitors, turned around, and walked out of my hospital room.
Johnny Detroit, you are fired from sending me stories to ask these guys. I mean, come on, man. Guys, great news. Marco D'Angelo will not be joining us tomorrow. Bruce Marshall up tomorrow, and I swear to God, I'm going to practice. I'm going to say to Bruce, do not tell a story that's longer than 2 bloody minutes. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And listen, these shows are supposed to be just fun, casual shows. It's about meeting the experts. I cannot sit here every single day and ask these guys to give us betting advice. You want betting advice? Every one of us is going to say the same damn thing every day. We're going to tell you bankroll management. Don't bet more than 4 or 5% on your bankroll. We're going to tell you don't do parlays. We're going to tell you don't cross zero in teasers. We're going to tell you to slow down with the stupid round robins. We're going to tell you the same things. All of us who know how to win betting are going to give you literally the same advice. So we can't go through that every day. This is about meeting us, understanding us, hearing how bad some of us are at telling stories, etc., etc. Marco, with all that said, 6 years in, brother, it has been an absolute privilege building WagerTalk with you. Please, I will leave you some breathing room so that you can say your last thoughts. I know it might be 10 minutes long, so go ahead.
No, Prez, I'm like everybody else. I'm going stir crazy. There's no question about that. But guys, we'll get through this. Be smart. Stay in. The longer everybody does what they're supposed to do, the quicker this thing will pass, and we'll be back to our normal lives. We'll be talking about sports. We'll be having fun. We'll be bringing you videos. We'll all be betting in the world. We'll look back and say, it wasn't as bad as we thought. We did it the right way. Hang in there. Be good to one another. And really, from the bottom of my heart, Prez, it has been quite a ride of what we've accomplished in a short period of time. And with the team that we have assembled now, the next 6 years is going to be even more. We're going to be at warp speed because we have so many talented people that bring different things to the table. The addition of the gold sheet last year, and bringing Rick on board, having Minty and Kelly, with all of the hosting the videos that we're doing, and having more talent and being able to bring more of shows, whether it is, how many people are spending money right now just to have us bullshit? Okay? We know you guys are bored just like we are. It's something if we broke your day for 1 hour, made you forget about everything that's going on, and made you laugh just one time in the last hour, it was worth it.
Well said, dude. And I agree. And that's why we're doing these shows casually. I mean, we're not really getting into boring technical stuff. Guys, I want to tell you the lineup for next week. Tomorrow, as I said, is Bruce Marshall. Bruce is an absolute icon in this industry, guys. Bruce was one of the key members of the Gold Sheet. He is on a million different radio shows. He is so good. He's also much less loquacious than Marco. I might actually have to work to get stuff out of Bruce. Monday, we have Andrew McGinnis and somebody else we haven't decided yet. Tuesday is Brian Leonard. Wednesday's show will be all about WagerTalk and its future. We're going to have Johnny Detroit on as well as Rick Alec. Thursday will be Teddy Covers, and Friday will be Tony Finn and Ski. I've already organized the week after that. Ralph Vino, Bobby Liggs, mid-major Matt, and I'm going to get Kyle Anthony from the UFC on as well. Minty, Viv and I are willing to go to a country bar with you anytime, so long as they play Pink Floyd. Marco?
Hey, Prez, I got an over and under before we send out for everybody. Everybody's talking about how many December and January babies are going to be born because, everybody locked up, in the house, nothing else to do. I got a sidebar to that. Let's set the over under. Will there be more babies born or more divorces after this lockdown of everybody being together for such long periods of time?
I think there's a good chance it could be equal.
So I think that we need something to wager on. What do you set the number at? Who's the favorite?
Yeah, I have tuned out of setting numbers. All I want to do is just hang out with you guys and talk. And we are going to actually, guys, we are going to do some poker shows as well. So Marco will be back to talk poker. Teddy and me and Marco are going to do a poker show. I've reached out to some of my poker buddies who are professional poker players to do a little bit of poker as well. Don't forget, Gianni will be on again in a couple of weeks to talk casino games. Shank, it was a pleasure having you here, man. Marco, let's call it a show, baby.
All right. Stay safe, everybody.
1 p.m. tomorrow, everyone. Myself and Bruce Marshall. Make sure to check it out and join us for the live chat. So much better and more fun when you guys are on it. And Johnny, I will find an even tighter shirt tomorrow. Maybe I'll tank top it. I'm out. Later, boys. Thanks, Marco.